Good evening, everybody. For me, it is Friday evening, and I am going to take you along on the ride as I'm figuring out what we're doing this week. I came across this thing, and it was really cool. It was actually called a Waterfall journal. And in the same way that we had, the waterfall thing that we pulled the tab back and forth with, it gives a similar effect, but it's a journal, not a little flippy thingy. And so I was looking at it, and I was watching the tutorial. The lady that does it, her name is Pam, and she's on Silver and Sparkles. So yeah, I'll put a link in my link list to her site, and it's like I said, I'll try to figure out the link for the actual tutorial that it is, but it's called Waterfall Journal. Easy tutorial, and it is actually really cool. So I sat down. The way she explained it, she was using double-sided paper, print with both sides of the paper, and I don't have that. So I was thinking to myself, okay, if I do what she said with single-sided paper, on the whole bottom half of it, all I'm going to have is white paper sticking out. So I need to figure out how to fix that. And after much discussion with myself and measurements and playing around, I've got right here, I'm playing with the offcuts of the pages, the pieces that I used to make the papers that I was going to use for the actual little journal. And so I was like, because I was trying to figure it out, and I'm like, I don't want to use the papers that I was going to use for the actual journal, because that's going to potentially just waste all that paper. So I thought, I got an idea. I'll take the cutoffs, from where I did it. This is the extra. What I used was 12 by 12 paper, and I cut off the part that I didn't need for the, how tall it is. And that left me with these lovely little pages right here. So that's what I've been working with. And what I've come to the conclusion of is that I can do this and have it show up correctly. I added 3/4 of an inch to the length of the whole page. She had 10 1/4, and I made mine 11. So 3/4 of an inch I added to the page. And then what I'm doing now is I'm going over here, and on this far side, the long side of each page, I'm going through and scoring. Hold on, I am making a shadow there. Scoring at 3/4 of an inch right here. I do my score just like so. And when I fold that under like this way with my little 3/4 of an inch, it makes it work just right. So this is what we're doing. It comes out, the pages go together, and I haven't put it all together yet, obviously. The pages are still kind of wonky because they're just hanging loose. They haven't been even scored or anything. But do you see how cool this is? This is a journal, and it has all these beautiful pieces, and they're all in this cool, like, waterfall cascade coming out this way. Really, really cool. I love this. I think this is going to be an adorable little book to make. I thought that it was time that we made a real book out of something other than envelopes, and, give you an opportunity to explore. And it doesn't matter what you use for paper. You can use anything that you have. You can use scrapbook paper. You can use magazine pages. You can use book pages. Because no matter what you make as a foundation, you can decorate on top of that foundation to make it look good. So if you've got book pages and you think, God, that's going to look ugly having book pages, it doesn't matter. You can decorate it with the book pages and have it come out looking just right. So, it's just, that's the thing you've got to remember is it's what's there on your foundation is not always critical, because you can take other things and cover and make journaling spaces or make decorative spaces and all that sort of stuff. So, you can join me here as I'm finishing up tucking these 3/4 inch parts of the bottom. And because like I said, I just didn't want it to come out with the entire lower half of this would have been white, which would have been, that's what I started with. Actually, I can fold these out to you, for you, and you can see how ugly they looked. But I mean, when it came to it, you went from this pretty papers to that, and that really looked kind of crappy. So, like I said, I started trying to figure out what to do to make it work better, and this is what I came up with. So, I think we can make it work with a single-sided paper just fine. And let's get this one done. I've only got a couple more of these to do, and I'll have them all done. She used 4 sheets. To me, that was really kind of skimpy for a journal of any kind. I mean, other than just making a cute little plaything, like an insert or something to stick in something else. But to make an actual, any kind of a sincere attempt at a journal needed more than 4 pages to me. So that's why I kind of was picking out some papers, and I ended up with 7 pages, which will be a total of 28 papers when they're all done. And as you can see, this is coming along pretty good here. It's being 1/4 of an inch all the way down, all the way along. That one looks a tiny bit less than 1/4 of an inch, but we'll give it some leeway. Maybe it'll straighten out as we get everything bound together. This is going to be a fun one because this one we are going to actually bind. I don't think we've done a bound journal yet. Are y'all sick of me doing journals? I did put out a video asking if anybody has any ideas. I have got tons of hay binding, the twine, binding twine off of my bales of hay. I mean, I've got gobs of stuff. And so what I was trying to figure out is something recycling wise, like craft of some sort, using that, using those hay bale, baling twine off my hay bales. Because I go through a couple of hundred of those a year. And so I've got quite a few of those. Because I've got this year's and most of last year's that I've saved up. So that's quite a lot. And the only thing is they have knots in them. Because that's, when the baler is making the bales, one of the things it does is it ties knots in the string to make it, where it makes the, where it holds the twine around the bale. So it's got knots in it all over the place. And that's the thing that makes it a little bit difficult. I had thought about crochet. And I don't know what kind of a pattern I could use that it wouldn't look ugly having all those knots everywhere. I had thought about some kind of a shopping bag or something like that, maybe. I don't know. I don't have a pattern for that. But, so if anybody has any ideas on that, I am all ears. Another thing that I had thought about for the, for that baling twine was possibly, I had thought, I wonder if I could braid it and make something out of it braided. I mean, there's going to be a lot of lumps in it because of the fact that it's, got knots all over the place in it. I don't know. I'm just trying to think of something because I have so much of the stuff and it's a beautiful, natural, heavy, it's about, I guess about that thick twine. It's a fairly deep, 1/2 inch or so thick twine. And it's made with the coarse, actually, I don't know if I've got a piece of it handy or not. I had brought a couple of pieces in to play with. But don't know if I've got them. Here they are. One second. You can see what it looks like. Exactly. This is it. Baling twine. And they make them in plastic, which is what the other person I bought hay from used to use. But this is, as you can see, it's like, I don't know what it's like. It's like a twisted stuff of some sort, But it's put together like this. And one thing I'd thought about was maybe like putting Mod Podge or something on it and somehow shaping it and letting it dry into shapes. I don't know how effective it would be at drying into shapes. I would have to figure out something to use for template to wind it around or whatever. But that was one thing that I thought about too. Like I said, with this, I'm going to have to tie the pieces together, you know, from when you're doing it. So there's going to have to be more knots made in it of some sort. And if anybody knows of a certain, you know, a kind of knot that I could do that wouldn't be as big of a mess as that one is, this is what the baler does. The knots that the baler puts in it when it's, you know, cutting it off for the bale of hay to continue on its way through the machine and pop on out and land in the field. And I have gotten hay directly out of the field, and I've had it brought to me, you know, delivered, and it's really an amazing thing. I didn't know about that until I got the horse. But anyway, I really would appreciate if anybody, you know, thinks of anything that would be workable with this stuff. I would love to play with it and see what we could make, because that's something that I have an abundant supply of. Okay, as you can see now with this, you can see there's all these pages, and each one of these pages is like in a waterfall pattern, because it starts and it just goes on down. And then what we'll do is each sheet is going to open up. Now, one thing I am going to have to do is, because this is single-sided paper, I have to think about what would I like to do on this other side. You know, and how would I like to decorate it, per se, to make it where it's not so just, as you can see, that's pretty stark white, you know, thing to be working with. I also need to make a decision on what I want to do with all of these things, because I've got this little tuck spot here that I could make. It's very small, though. I mean, I could take it and glue it down there and glue it down there and have a tiny pocket there that I could stick stuff in. Or something. I don't know. I just don't know for sure what I want to do with it. You know, I could always just glue the whole thing down and it just be part of the paper, you know, and makes it a heavier paper to turn. So that's a possibility. That's the other thing, is this is very, very lightweight paper. She used both lightweight paper and cardstock. So, or she talked about using lightweight paper and cardstock. She used cardstock, I think, because she printed her paper on both sides. And she is on the design team for one of these big, you know, art channels. I don't remember which one she said she was a part of, but it's one of the larger ones. I know who they are. And they've got a massive Etsy, you know, presence and all kinds of stuff out here on YouTube. And a bunch of their different designers and stuff do their own channels and, you know, highlight and send you back to that business's page for getting the products that they're making things with to showcase the products. And so it's a, you know, it's just one big happy family kind of thing when when they're doing it. So this is, I have the choice now of using the big pieces like this and making a big one, or I could try to double side print on the printer. I don't have a whole lot. I have quite a few, but I don't have a whole lot of stuff to do the double-sided cardstock. So I'm thinking I'm just going to wait on that until I can get it better organized and actually know for sure what I'm doing. Excuse me, got to get a sip. So that's kind of what I'm leaning towards, is just letting it be for the moment and working with this stuff, because I was just playing with this one to get the hang of what we're doing and figuring out how to make it so I could get the edges to be right and not be white all the way down this whole far side. So we've conquered that, and the way that this is going to work is we are going to bind this as a book. We'll just sit down and get all the papers in line, and they'll use some paper clips to hold it in place, and then we'll put some holes in it here, and we will use some twine or ribbon or something to put it together and bind it into a little book. And then once it's bound in the little book, we can sit down and start going through it and decorating it and do some neat stuff in it. So Like I said, I just felt like it was time for us to get something else besides just the envelopes to decorate. And unless you went ahead and made one of those books like I made, you know, with the flip over back and forth things in it, that's a possibility too. So, but this just caught my eye, and I thought it was kind of cool. It won't poke up like that by the time it's decorated and bound and stuff. It'll lay flatter, and helps in scoring it too. Scoring is good. This is one of the reasons, any kind of a scoring tool. This came with one of my scoring things. My scoreboard. This actually was part of my scoreboard. Okay, what did I do with my scoreboard? I just had it in my hand like 2 seconds ago. Okay, there's my cutter. I don't know what I did with my scoreboard. It was literally right here. I just used it. Where did I stick the thing? Oh, well, whatever. I'll figure it out in a minute. Oh, here it is. Duh. Right beside me. But yeah, the scoring board is a very useful little tool too. They make one that is much, you know, it's a 12-inch one. And eventually I'd love to get one of those. It just is not a high priority for me right now. But the way mine came, it's not this one. There's another board that I have that has some scoring feature to it as well. And it came as something that was clipped into the top of it. It's like a box maker or something like that. And the thing was clipped in at the top for part of what you had, the scores that you had to make whatever it was for. Or an envelope maker. I don't know. I don't remember what it was for. But I took this little thing out and I use it for everything. Anyway, so let's get started. What we did is we have got pieces of scrapbook paper or whatever size paper. If you've got double-sided paper, then you don't have to do what I did down here on this far side. It'll work just fine. You'll have the thing flush with no problem. So if you've got a printer and you're going to print out some pages, and print them out double-sided, that would be just fine. And that'll fix that. You won't have to do anything except just cut the paper and roll with it. You also won't have to worry about decorating the inside or, covering this white, because you won't have that white. You'll have another print already there. So that's your easiest way to do it, is have double-sided paper. Like I said, I just don't happen to have any double-sided paper. And frankly, I'm not going to go shopping for any right now because I have tons of paper. I don't need more paper. I want to use the paper I have. And so that's, if I have to get more paper, then I will. But for the moment, I want to try to use some of the stuff I've acquired. I have lived in the acquiring stage for quite some time. And so I got plenty of crap here to do stuff with. Anyway, here we go. Let us look at this and get the measurements. I jotted down some things that she said earlier. I'm going to put it down here. She calls it a waterfall journal. The width left to right is 10 1/4 inches. Now, if you have single-sided paper, this is for double-sided. If you have single side, make it 11 inches. And then the height, or how tall it is. How tall was it? Hang on a second. 7 7/8 inch. Nope, wait a minute. Yeah, 7 7/8 inch. Weird height. I don't know why that she did it 7 7/8 inches, but that's what she did. So 7 7/8 inches for the height. And then what you're going to do is you're going to score your pages. And you'll score them 1/4 inch apart all the way down the line here of where you start. You start scoring at 6 inches. Now she has it at 5 3/4, 5 1/2. She has it going that direction. I goofed up and went the other direction. It works both ways, amazingly enough. She's got it going 6 and then 5 3/4, 5 1/2, 5. She went from 5 1/2 to 5. I think she misspoke because it didn't look like 5 when she did it. I believe it was supposed to be 5 1/4, not 5. That would come next because it's 1/4 inch increments, not 1/2 inch. And she suddenly went from 5 1/2 to 5, and that's a 1/2 inch increment. So I think that was an error that she just misspoke. It didn't fit the way that she was doing it. So you've got this for your how you're doing it. So however many sheets you have, you're going to go and start at 6 inches and then go 1/4 inch down for as many sheets as you have. Now the thing is, okay, this is 7 sheets of paper, and with 7 sheets of paper, your top sheet at 7 inches or 7 pieces of paper, your top sheet is only 3 1/4 inches. I wouldn't go much lower than that for a top page. And this is 7 pages. Like I said, I just thought 4 pages was just not enough. If you want to do a 4-pager, that is perfectly fine. But for what I was thinking, you know, how I was going to decorate it and use it, I thought I wanted a little bit more than that 4 pages. And so I went with the 7 because that was the closest, you know, the most I felt like I could do with this top page being so narrow. So if you want to do the 4, you can do the 4 and just do the 6, 5 3/4, 5 1/2, 5 1/4, and 5. No, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's 5. She should have stopped at 5 1/4. So that's fine. If you want to do that, that's perfectly fine. Now, if you are doing single-sided paper on your width of the paper, you're going to make it your 11 inches wide. And on each of those papers, on the far side, once you score to get your length at 6, 5 3/4, etc., and get your fold for the paper so that it lines up like this, you'll have it lining up, and then there'll be all your pages have white down here. And just ignore those until you're finished getting this part done. Once you finish this part, so that everything is in line the way it should be, and it all looks, you know, you've got all your pages fixed and tucked together, then you can worry about all the white stuff. And at that point, once you're sure everything's in order and everything is fine on this half, and you're happy with this half, then just simply flip it open, take all of these, you know, flip it around, and do that 3/4 inch score. So we're going to do a, on the width, we're going to do 11 plus 3/4 inch score, fold in. So you're going to have, boy, my writing is terrible, especially with a marker. Okay, then you're going to have the 3/4 inch that you're going to go around, and you're going to measure that off and score it. Now you can score with anything. You can score, put yourself something down that's a little bit soft, a magazine, a book, not the hardcover, but like the pages, something that has a little bit of cush to it. Take that, and you can do it gently if you do it with a pencil. Take something, not really like that. Hang on a second. Let me find you something that looks more like what I'm trying to get at. Okay, this. See how that is? The lid is not out, but it has somewhat of a point here. You can take that and score with that. Do it gently, and that way you won't tear the paper. But you can take and use a soft pad under you, you know, a little bit of cush. And then you take this and you take your paper and you open it up, and ignore this, I was experimenting. You open it up and take a ruler and your, oh well, where's my ruler? I have no idea. I don't want to use that giant one if I can avoid it for this. I had my little ruler. Where the heck did you go? Anyway, you take your ruler, you hold it, you lay it in place, measure a 1/2 inch or 3/4 inch over, make a little mark, 3/4 inch over here, make a little mark, and you take your tool and you will go and use that tool and apply gentle pressure and follow that ruler all the way down. Do it once, do it twice, and then gently move the ruler and see if you have something that looks a bit like that. So you can see an indentation in the paper, and it won't be quite as crisp as this is because I've already burnished this one. But when you do this, that's how you're going to set up that 3/4 of an inch. Now, like I said, we can take and use these and make little pockets with them, or we can just glue them down so that you've got a little bit heavier surface there when you're handling that paper. So either way is fine, and the color will match. So either way is fine, whatever you want to do. But that's the general idea right there, how you're going to perform that. And when you get down here, if you'll notice, this is going direction down here to the center page, wherever the center page is, there it is. And then it's going to go and reverse the direction all the way back. So, you know, and it just looks that way. So that's what we're going to do there. Now, for the sake of time, I'm just going to work with this little one that I've made that's, you know, kind of a sample, and do that instead of trying to go with the big ones and remeasure everything and do all that stuff too. Now, let me get over here and grab a paper clip or two. Where are you, paper clips? Are you even in here, or are you in the drawer over there? Okay, this will work. Got me a teeny tiny bulldog clip. You want to tap these together really well. You want to make sure that this is together really well. You press in that so you can make it compact like it's supposed to be. Don't let it float out. You want to get it in there where it's all comfy, and that's how it's going to look. And then you're going to take either a bulldog clip like this, or if you have a clothespin, you can use them, or you can use a paper clip of any size, including ginormous, and put that on. I use these regularly in my signatures when I'm getting them ready to bind. Okay, that'll hold this in place. Your paper's not going to grab it and go sideways. It's down here. You want to make sure it looks right. Yeah, that looks right. So what you're going to do is you're going to create holes. Now, what I was going to do, because this is so short, I could do a 3-hole pamphlet stitch in here, which is fine. Or I could do, I was thinking about doing like just 2 holes and tying it together in the back or something. Let me see here. I gotta see if I, one second, I'm gonna pause this just a second while I grab my bookbinding stuff. Okay, back. Got all my stuff here. All right, when you get ready to bind something, you clamp it together. Like I found another one of these sitting on my little desk there. And you want this so that your signature pages are not going to move around, especially sideways, because you need them to be in a straight spot so that when you put your holes in and you run your threads through, it'll hold still and it'll end up binding without having, you know, holes wonky coming out way over here somewhere, because they're held in place and everything's going to be nice and straight. Now, this is a fairly small little guy, so I did find my 6-inch ruler. It was just right over there under something. So you can look at this, and we're going to measure this and see how big it is. This puppy is, well, I'll turn it here where I can read it. This little guy is just a hair over 4 inches. So half of that is 2 inches. You'll want to do a hole in the center. So that's one place you always want to do a hole, is in the center. So let's put this so that it's even, and we will take our pencil and we will mark on that little crease right there just a little dot for 4 inches right there. Now we need to put 1 dot down here and 1 dot up here. So let's see how far we want to come in. Maybe we'll come in, let's come in a half inch, maybe but 3/4 of an inch is really too much. Let's come in a half inch here. So we're going to come to right here. There's the half inch mark. We're going to mark that, and we're going to come right down here. We're going to do the same thing. We're going to come to our 1/2 inch right there and mark the little place here. So now we have 3 little marks, and that is the place where our thread is going to go through. Hang on, let me get this in the right spot. So each of our threads are going to go through here, and this is how we're going to bind it. Now, one way that you do, there's a couple of different things that you can use. You can use this as a little awl, and it came with my first bookbinding kit that I ever bought. And so I've had it quite a while. You can use this. You could use an ice pick. You could potentially use one of those little things out of the, you know, when you get a set of things for clearing, you know, nuts, like walnuts and stuff, to pick the pieces of walnut out of the shell. Sometimes it has a straight piece that comes with that set, so that would work. Anything that you got in your toolbox, guys, would, if there's something sharp, a woodworking tool or something like that, that would work fine. This is a very easy thing to do. What you're going to do is you're simply going to go through. By the way, when you do this, make sure what's underneath you. This is a great time to have like a stack of paper book pages that you don't mind poking a hole in, or some kind of, you know, something folded up enough to where when that thing goes through, it's not going to poke a hole or ruin your table or something like that. So that's one thing to consider on this. And what you're going to do is go right in here where that hole is. Let me make sure I'm in screen and you can see what I'm talking about. Okay. We're going to go right here. We're going to see that hole. We're going to take this and we're going to gently but firmly put it straight through, and just have it go straight through like that. It's not hard to get it through a stack of paper. See, it came straight through, went through my piece of paper, no biggie, because I didn't have anything in there that was of concern. So there's one hole. Now let's go to the next one, and we're going to go straight through again. Just right through there, press it just straight down, you know, or straight across. There we go. And you want to make a nice little hole there. And then you're going to come down here to the bottom, and you're going to go here, and you're going to go straight through, just like you did on the other ones. Straight through, just like that. And there's your 3 holes. Now, as you see, this is why you want it clipped, because if you had done that and the papers were all just flopping around, I promise you it would have been a royal pain in the neck to try to do. And you might have gotten one hole in, but as soon as you pulled out and tried to get another one, the papers are going to be all misaligned again. So it's just a nuisance to do that. Now, for needles, the kind of needles that I usually use are like these darning needles. They're made to work with yarn and stuff for crewel, you know, the stitchery that you do. They're made to use with those. This is a great thing because what we use to bind books is all different stuff, but most of it is not that thin. Most of it's got some texture to it or some thickness to it. And like what I was going to do with this one, I thought this would go cute with it, is some of this baker's twine. And I think I picked up a ton of this stuff at Hobby Lobby or something after Halloween, or I don't remember. There was some holiday that they had a boatload of all different kinds of weird colors. This thing that this comes off of has like lime green and orange and yellow, and, you know, and there's a lot of other stuff like that too that's sitting over there in my drawer. And then there's also another thing that I use a lot of, and you don't have to get all different kinds of colors in this. You could pick, like, this is some of the colors that I have, and this is actually a waxed bookbinding threads. Now, I like this one. Beige tends to go with everything. This one I like because with the multicolors in it, it picks up, most of the time, it picks up anything. Now, if you've got a darker pattern and you want to have it with a darker thing, you know, if you get just 2 or 3 of these came in my original binding kit that I bought years ago. And as you can see, it doesn't matter how many books you've made. It's like you can't make a dent in this silly thing, even if you try. And so they last you probably a bookmaking lifetime. You can also use hang on, I'm trying to open this thing. You can also use embroidery floss. Take it either all 6 strands, or you can take it apart and make it smaller depending on what kind of a project you're working on. So that's something. Oh yeah, this is another thing that I have. This is like a hemp cord, and it comes in different colors. This stuff is great because it's not waxed. The only thing about wax stuff, if you've got something that's going to be in an environment where it gets really hot, waxed threads can actually kind of melt over onto the corner, touch the insides of your paper, and sometimes you get a hint of a waxy look around your holes. So if it's not going to be in a bad environment where it gets exposed to stuff, not a big deal. But if it's in an environment where it may get hot regularly, like, I don't know, maybe you just live in a climate that it gets really, really hot and you're going to throw it in the car. Something like that. But anyway, so that's just an idea as far as when you're binding things. You can also use ribbon and smaller lace. There's just no end to what you can use to bind things with. Okay, a 3-hole pamphlet stitch is called that because obviously you have 3 holes. What you do is you go through this first hole, like so. And I got to make this hole bigger. My awl didn't quite make it big enough for this needle. So you go through that, headed out, away to the back of the... Golly, that's hard to get through. Whew, there it goes. Okay, you're going to start with your thread going out away from you. And you will come here, and you're going to come up here, and you're going to find your next hole right here. And you're going to come back in. I can feel it right there. I've got it. You just come back through like this. And once again, I may have to enlarge my hole just a tiny bit. You're going to come that way. Now, so you went out and up and back in. Now, the next thing you do is go all the way to the bottom. You don't do anything with the middle. You go all the way to the bottom. And so here, I'm going to go all the way to the bottom. Right there. Go through. And then, once I get through there, then you're back on the outside again. And then I am going to come back to this middle. And see, you can see, I chose this stuff because I knew it would blend. And I had so many different colors in here, I thought it would be a cute blend. So where this middle piece is, you need to go back in that hole, but you don't want to split this stuff if you can avoid it, because that makes a mess. Because we're going to do something it'll affect your ability to tie it correctly. So here we go. We've got this. Now, one thing that will help, if you put your finger here on top of that twine, and then you go on the back side and you gently pull on the other piece, where you first did it. You snug it up a little bit like this so that it's pulling down this way a little bit. There you go, get that. And then you're pulling this way a little bit on this one too. It makes it a lot easier to not split that twine because you've got it kind of pulled to the edge here so it's not in the way. And then you can put this back through and get it through just fine. Now, one of the things that you want to realize is when you look at this, you've got your big long piece here, and you have got what looks like wings. This one is on the left side, so we want this one to be on the right side. So I'm going to pull that over so that when I come back through with this, it's going to be on the correct side. Just like so. Now, this is obviously way more thread than what I really need. Let me pull some of this back through. Hang on. Figure out which way is the first place to go. Nope, not the way I want to go. I want to go this way. I'm trying to pull back some of this so I have a little bit shorter part up here because I don't really need that much thread. Now, I'm going to gently pull it back through on this one. And it'll pull it down and gently. You just want to make sure you don't make a knot when you do that. Okay, so now we're back here. We've got our angel wings on either side, and we've got the little string in the middle. And what you want to do is you want to snug this down. You do not want to tear your paper. You just want to snug it down good. And then you're going to tie a knot. And here, we'll go ahead and cut this off now. The reason I left this attached to the thing and just kind of work with it is because you don't waste so much thread when you do that. You actually, it helps you to save your thread. And believe it or not, eventually you will run into needing, especially on some of these specialty threads, you can use those up pretty quickly. So I'm just rolling this one back up again because I got it all out. If you are going to measure the pieces and cut them to use it instead of leaving it attached to this because that's too much trouble, then what you want to do is you want to take the string and pull it the top to bottom of your project, whatever size it is. Do that 3 times, and that's the amount that you need if you're going to cut it off and still have enough to tie your knot. So it's either you can do it 3 times and tie your knots that way, or you can just leave it attached, and when you get done, you can cut it off and then tie your knot and have no leftover, stuff to speak of. Now, you're going to tie your knot. One goes the right over left, and then the next one is going to go left over right. And that's supposed to make like a square knot or something. Anyway, that's a secure knot. And if you get mixed up and don't remember which way you went, it's fine. Just add one more and that'll take care of it. And then you've got these little pieces. Now these little pieces, you may want to leave them a little bit longer because you may want to stick a charm or a bead or something on one of those to have it dangle and be cute. Sometimes I do that, sometimes I don't. But now, when you take all this apart, and you take away these, come here, you. Oh dear, my little pen is caught in here. Okay, now I have a technical problem. This is way too big. Okay, so now I'm going to have to make some adjustments. I've never had that happen before. Ever. In 4 years of bookmaking, I've never had that happen. I'm going to very gently see if I can pick this knot apart, but I don't know if I can or not. If not, I'll cut it and I'll just redo it. It's not the end of the world. I was just going to try to save it so I didn't have to redo it. I don't know if I can get that to come apart or not. I snugged it down good. Yeah, I think I'm going to have to just snip it and redo it. Hang on a minute. I'll bring y'all back in a second after I snip it and redo it. Okay, I'm back. That didn't take but a minute. I've actually never done that before. That was the wildest thing. And I've used bulldog clips a lot. Just never had one with string wrapped around it. Alright, now, as you can see, these are your right-hand sides that you did your 3/4 of an inch fold over. And these are the left-hand sides that were just cut. And when you fold it over, like so, and where's your little tool, and burnish it again, because we just played with the fold. And you burnish that nice and good. And here we go. Now, we're ready to start decorating. It's actually a full-blown book now. It's not going to go anywhere. Those pages aren't going to slide. They won't go anywhere. They're going to stay exactly where we put them. Now, what we want to make a decision about too is what we want to do with these little pieces. I don't know that we want to have a little tuck in every single one of these. That's a personal choice. You could do that. I might try to do it just to show how you did it, but I'd rather do a little bit of everything to show you what you could do. So what you can do is you can put glue right here and right here and make it like a little pocket, kind of a really tiny pocket. You would not want to put anything big in this pocket. You'd want it to be something smaller. One of the things that is cute that I have are all these little 1-inch offcuts that I did when I was making the 12-inch paper and 11-inch paper. So I've got all these little 1-inch offcuts. You might want to make some cute little mini tags out of these. That would be little, that could be stuck in there and not, and stand up correctly without being fallen everywhere. Or you could put them this way too. Just make them kind of short. and do even like a little row of them. It'd be really cute. You used all the different colors and tucked it in there, or did different things, you know, whatever. It's just going to be a really thin little pocket is all. Now, the other thing that you can do is just take and put some glue on this whole side and fold it over and glue it down and be done with it. And it's a permanent little flap. It won't have a pocket in it. It would just be a permanent little flap to give the color, and it's easy to work with. Either way is perfectly acceptable. You'll just want to choose what you want to do and go for it. Now, technically, I probably, because I was more interested in working out the logistical how this was going to work than I was decorating when I made this. Before you put yours together, if you're using a single-sided paper, go ahead and do some decorating. If you're going to do it, go ahead and do inking if you want to do that, because it's a little bit easier to do that from that stage than it is, you know, to come back when it's already bound and do it that way. It's not hard to do. Either way, promise. You know, it's no big deal either way. You can come through here and just, you know, lay down your little bit of ink. And all you're doing, you know, if all you're doing with your inking is just, you remember I told you about how the paper has that white edge to it. When you cut a paper that has a white side, it has a white edge to it. So all you would be doing here is taking out that little white edge. Or you can come and do it a little bit broader, a little bit more firm inking, and give it a little bit more where it comes onto the page a little hint more, where it's a little more visible this way. So it's personal preference, whatever you like to do. Some people go hog wild and really, really ink, like, you know, getting it all over the place. I play around. Sometimes I don't do it on purpose, but sometimes, you know, if you've got a really fresh, you know, if you've refreshed your ink pad, sometimes it'll get a little aggressive when it does. But see, with this color paper, you can do that and it looks just fine. So what you may want to do is sit down before you do this part, now that I know how we do it, but before you do this part of putting it together, take those papers, sit down, you know, where you have like, these are not complete yet, but these are the pieces that are going to be the big book. And like I said, this is not even complete cuts or anything. This is just sitting there. But you would want to take an ink all of these things. Also where your folds are, you could even do a little bit of inking there. That looks nice. You know, just go through and ink your edges if you'd like to do that. Inking is completely optional. There are a lot of people I know who do very little inking. Only when it like really affects how something looks will they ink. And that is perfectly acceptable. So you're going to start with this, and then you're going to start deciding how you want to decorate this stuff. What I would suggest on here, one thing that you can look at doing is stenciling to take up that white space. And you don't have to use a dark ink. And even if you're using a darker ink, you don't have to use a heavy hand. You can use, I'll show you what I mean. One second, let me grab a stencil real quick. And the dauber that I just rolled off the desk onto the floor. Okay, there we go. Now, let me grab a stencil. Any stencil will do. Here's one. Okay. Now, and it also depends on the type of thing your stencil is. If you've got a stencil, if you're working on paper like this and you want to have it kind of a lighter amount, I wouldn't suggest doing something with big open spaces like this. You might want to, I'll show you what I mean. When you use something with more narrow open spaces, sometimes you can do this. And I don't actually use that, so hang on a second. Let me get my real brush that I use for that kind of stuff. Find my browns. Where are you, browns? Come on. Well, whatever. I'll just take this one. Whatever's on it is fine. It's just for demonstration. Okay, there ain't nothing on it. So, we will apply some. Let's get some ink on there. Now, when you're going in and doing this, and you're wanting to ink, you want to just, you know, if you're doing a background, you may not want to go real heavy on it. You may want to just do this with a fairly light hand. so that it comes away. That's almost heavier than what you'd want, because when you're doing a whole page that way, you're wanting one of two things. You're either wanting it so that someone can write over it and not be overly distracted by the pattern, or so that you can decorate on top of it and look nice. So either way is fine. Now, if you want something where that's going to be the primary thing you're seeing and you really want it to show up nicely, that's a whole different world. That one, grab you what you got to work with. Let's say something pretty like turquoise here. Let's, grab this. If this is something that you're wanting to have that be the foundation, and that be the background, take something like this and go with it and really apply the ink. Get the ink in there so that it's beautiful and it lays down a beautiful pattern. You don't have to do it all that way, but you can do just sections of it that way and then some of it a little bit lighter. But you want it to have where it's showing enough to be, a really, like these shades right in here, that's the kind of thing. If you want to do it where it's real definitive and it's actually the design that you're putting on there is actually a part of the design for the page itself. Hang on, I'll show you. Like if you've got a thing like this and you want to do it and you want you want that to be seen. And by the way, these little brushes that I use are absolutely awesome. They're just simple, cheap makeup brushes. You can get them at Dollar Tree and stuff like that, probably cheaper than you will find them. You will find them at Hobby Lobby and Michael's and stuff, but it's cheaper to buy them over at Dollar General because it's a makeup thing. So yeah, you want to use a more generous amount of ink if you want to have that as it is like a design, and that's what you're doing on that sheet to kind of, kind of decorate with it. And maybe you're doing that and you're going to come in here and, maybe the turquoise is kind of what you're wanting to do on this page. And you want to put in a leaf maybe. Come in here. Sorry, that tried to get away from me. Come in here and put down this leaf stencil and just put it in as part of your design. And you could flip it over and do another one going that way. And it actually looks quite pretty. So it just depends on what you're doing with your page. If you want something that's, maybe you're going to go on the edge of your page, this is another really pretty idea. I'll go ahead and just stick with the turquoise since that's what I got out here right now. But you would lay this down and look at this little design. This is really cute. And you just want to do a topper or a bottom or a side. A side edge is very pretty sometimes too. Not on this look, I wouldn't do a side image because of the way that, the things are folded over like that and the way that this book's layout is. I wouldn't do that. But like if you've got a page and you want to just put something cute across the top of that page, you could put something like that across the top or the bottom. I'm sorry, was I out of frame? I apologize. You could do something like this and make yourself a cute little topper for a page or a little thing along the side or the bottom. So yeah, there's, when you're working with single-sided sheets, there's a lot of things that you can do. Another thing that you can do is take some of your different papers, something that kind of coordinates with it or something that's a complete contrast. And you could put in some light stenciling in the background or just something that, takes away from the fact that it's a white page and kind of gets that out of the way. And then take that and have your, so you've got something other than just pure white there. I'll open it to the middle because it's easier to do. Where you would take this, put in some light stenciling, and then take something like, a different kind of paper, something, that you wanted to make a design with, where you wanted to say layer something. Okay, you wanted to do a couple of layers of things. So you would have maybe this as the back, and like a frame like that, and then this, and then maybe a picture of something, you know, or something along those lines. So it's very, very versatile. You don't have to look at having this white as being that big of a detriment. There is a lot you can do with the white. You can actually sit down and doodle and do cute little page, you know, how you doodle and make little things around the edges of a page while you're sitting in a meeting trying to wait for them to hush. You know, so little things like that. Those are really, really cute. Hand-done artwork in these is absolutely precious. And just sit down and play around. Get you a kid's sketch pad. It's very inexpensive and the paper is wonderful. Just sit down with some pencils or colored pencils or watercolor pencils or watercolors, whatever you want to play with. I wouldn't do watercolors on a thin paper though. They're not so great on thin papers. They tend to warp them and make them do things, you know, out there that you didn't want. Even pastels, you know, just go to town with it. Now, you don't even have to be doing like drawing. You can sit down and do what they call mark making. And it's where you take different kinds of marks. And this is something that people do on book page a lot. Hang on a second. Let me grab a book page. I know I got one somewhere here. Okay, here's one. Yeah. They will take like book page, and they will take, I don't have my pencils and stuff out. Hang on. I've got some watercolor pencils right here that I guess will do. But they will take and do, like I said, what's called mark making. And you can do this any number of ways. You can take your, these are watercolor pencils. And I've actually never used these yet. Just got them a little while back. You can take and come in and do some shading, you know, in here. And just, it draws away from you trying to read something that maybe is boring to read. And you start doing in this, and then maybe you just change over and do a slightly different shade and come in with a little bit different. Or you may want to go in and do some marks, like with markers. Say you've got some markers. And somewhere I've got markers right here. Let me grab 2 or 3 of them. You know, you can take markers and come in and, hang on, I don't want to use that tip. I want to use this big one. Come in and make some shapes. And do those in different colors. Like take one and then a different color and do, whoops, wrong hand. My bad. I do this. I'm not prepared to do this, so I'm not doing it very well. But come in, you know, and make another triangle-like thing here and here. And then maybe another color and just make a row of these. Or you can do things like, hang on, am I getting out of frame? You can do things like, people do things like lines. And they will just make lines like this all the way up and down the page. And it creates a design of various things. They can do diagonal lines and do them shorter and longer and then little. And then come over next to that and maybe come down a little ways and do another one with slightly less, a little bit less, slightly less, a little bit less, and make a design of these just all over the page. It creates a new background. And if you've got something with a white page on it, that is a great way to sit down and make new backgrounds out of that white page and give yourself something to work with. So that, you know, it's not just this massive amount of white pages that you're dealing with. You've got some things. Heck, you can take your kids' crayons. They look great when you do this, like the shading and stuff. If you've got paint, acrylic paint is what I would suggest for this kind of paper. But if you've got acrylic paint, you can take your brush, put a little paint on it, and just go like this with it. And just make a little bit of a splash, you know, kind of a little scribbly kind of thing. And it looks fantastic. So things that you wouldn't even imagine. And then another thing you can do is after you take that, say you've got a different book page. These are, you know, this is out of a different book. Say you've got a different book page and you wanted to have that something that you did to be a frame, you can set the next book page under here and then put maybe a picture or, you know, whatever you want to do. The sky is the limit on these things. So the intention here is to have fun and to play. And as Pam at the Paper Outpost always says, never let the lack of a craft supply keep you from creating and making things. It's not about, if you don't have one particular craft supply, okay, what can I get creative with? I didn't have any double-sided paper, so it's like, okay, I'm going to sit down and figure this out. What can I do to make this little booklet work, even though I don't have quite what they did on the front, so it, you know, the front part here would look right. And so I sat down and I played with it. This first page, as you can see, I made 3 different folds before I found the right width that I needed to fold over on all of these. And so that is, that's what you know, can do. As far as binding, if you don't have like a regular darning needle or something like that, or the yarn needles, you can use other things. Like I said, there's a dozen things you can make holes with. You can take and use a regular sewing needle and just take and put in, like, you could use embroidery floss in a sewing needle and use that to bind it. There's just, technically you can use like 2 or 3 strands of thread it through there and do that, and that's plenty. That'll hold it just fine, and it'll look just fine. So it's not really this, there's just so little. There are no rules. I start to say there's so few rules, but honestly, there are no rules. This is a medium of creating that is intended to be purely fun. It is not intended to cause you stress. It is intended to do nothing but have a ball. For me personally, I am not a huge fan of those adult coloring books. I just don't get into them. I don't like doing things within the lines. I like making the lines. I don't like to do stuff within the lines all the time. I don't mind it on occasion, but to do it on a regular basis to me is tedious and boring. So I would rather sit down with the scrap papers that I just made cutting these pieces to use later on, now that I know what I'm doing. And I would rather take this and make a book out of it, and something that somebody could really enjoy. Decorate it, put it together. I could do it with this. I am inclined, I know it sounds silly, but if I wanted to do that with this and decorate it proper, which I think I'm going to do, I'll make the other one, but I think I'm going to make this one and really actually decorate it and show you some beautiful ideas for it. And to do that, I am very liable to take this lovely little binding loose again and completely take the pages apart so that I can work on these beautiful surfaces and do creative things with them without having the hassle of having them bound in the book. And then I'll bind it back together again when I'm done. It is just no big deal. I mean, it really is. People try to make things a big deal, and they just aren't. It's just fun. Pure and simple. Having fun. That's all there is to it. The whole point is just have fun. Forget about everything in your life that is not the way you want it to be for a little while, and go and just do something that makes you smile. And if you mess it all up, do something that makes you laugh. And that's even better. And I can't tell you how many times I have done that. Like I said, even just playing with this little thing, I was like, how in the world am I going to do this? And sat down and just start playing with it and start, you know, it's okay if you did it wrong. I mean, it took me 3 tries to get the right thing here. So it's perfectly fine if you did it wrong to begin with. Everything is fixable. Everything is fixable. Nothing is not able to be fixed unless you burn it. Other than that, nothing's not able to be fixed. If it's still in paper form, it can be fixed. And one of the things that did occur to me is with these edges on these pages, these are going to be very lightweight. And one of the things that occurred to me is we may want to do some things on these pages that create a little more sturdiness to it. So we might take another piece of paper and do a larger, like I suggested with the frames, something like that. or you may want to put like a big tall pocket on an area where you slide a card down in it, and that will strengthen that whole sheet by having that card in it and having the pocket made. It strengthens all the sides, and it'll make it more more functional and where it'll last longer. Another silly thing, it's okay, on a bigger book you would put corners on it. You can actually put corners on things very easily. All you do is take the size of what you want. Well, let me get this out of here. You would just take a piece of paper and mark on your paper where you would want, how big you would want that corner to be. Okay, here's my paper. Here's my corner. Let's look at this and see. Actually, let me put something between here so you can see what I'm doing better. Sit there, Brober, because it's all blending in too much. Okay, I am with you. Okay, do this, lay this down right here, and just see, okay, I want this corner. I want it to be like from here to here. You know, you just look at it in what looks good to you. And you're going to do a little line, and you will cut along this little line here, and you're going to have a little corner piece, and you just glue it down. And when you glue it down, it looks like you made a corner. If you've got any kind of decorative stuff that makes cool lines, you know, wiggly lines or whatever, because kids have some of those scissors that make scalloped edges and all different kinds of things for paper cutting, grab their scissors, borrow them, use that. You'll have to make it a little bit bigger corner for if it's a design, so it doesn't make your corner so tiny that it doesn't do its job of helping to support the paper. But when you do, and you can make it on up bigger. I mean, it just depends on, you know, the sky's the limit. And put it down here, and your page is going to have two pretty corners on it. You want to do one at the top, one at the bottom. You don't do it on the side that's bound, because that's protected by the binding. But out here, especially on your covers, your corners, you have two choices. You can either round your corners or maybe support your corners. And then just gluing it down, you just put it flat down. You don't leave it open. You just put it flat down, the little triangle right here and right here. It looks in a contrasting color, typically, and it looks really, really nice. I mean, for this one, if I were to take, well, I could use that, like a purple or something, and put it right there, and it would look nice with that. Or I could put, there's one that I was thinking of, this one right here. This would look nice with that too. You know, make the cover, make the corner out of this. So these are things that you can do to help strengthen your papers. Now, I'm going to do more with this starting next week. We will start decorating it, and I'm going to make the other big one between now and then, and that way we can play with larger surfaces, because this little guy is little, like our envelope things have been little. This little guy is only 4 inches wide, and that's about the width of our envelopes. Doing this, these puppies are 7 7/8 inch wide. That is a lot more space to be able, and I think this may already be cut. Hang on. Is this cut to 11? Yeah, this is cut to 11 also. So this is the actual size minus the 3/4 of an inch that it'll have to cut to fold over. That is huge compared to what we've been working with. So this is going to get fun. And you can look at some different ideas. I will bring next week, I will bring a whole bunch of different design ideas on these papers loose, because I don't need to bind them yet. I'll just go ahead and start working on the decorating on these, and then show you some concepts and ideas of things that might work to help take up some of that space. And of course we'll fold it. I'll score them and fold them into the right thing so it's laying in the correct direction, and the sizes of the pages are aligned to where they should be, and the waterfall effect is happening there. So it'll all be ready to actually start decorating, and I'm going to do some decorating on this one, and so that you can get some ideas, and it will be really, really fun. And we'll continue putting together some things. You can look at doing some of the things we've already looked at, you know, tags and journal cards, and the waterfall things, and the printed pictures like the puppy that I did. You know, and a lot of that stuff is free. Just go to, there is a lady, Edith, with Scrapbooking with Me, and I know they have freebie Fridays, and there's like a file or something on her website or on the channel, one or the other. I did it a long time ago, so I'm not sure which one it was, but you can click on it, and it has years of freebie stuff. And I mean, there's not little freebie stuff. There's some big freebie stuff, 10, 11 pages of freebie stuff. And you can build yourself a small library just out of her website with its freebies. I started mine that way, and I've gone through and added tons of them. Pam at the Paper Outpost has, if you sign up for her newsletter, she has a free image that she sends out with her newsletter. Sometimes she'll send it out and it's like all different sizes of the thing, so you can use it in different ways. But like I said, Edith at Scrapbooking with Me, and I'll link in my links post where I have, when you go to posts, I've got a links post there that'll take you to all these different places, and it gives you places. Some of those places have got free things, some of them don't, but it's like, there are things out there that you can find that are free for you to use. They may not be free for you to use to sell, but if you're not selling, that's no big deal. If you're making something for your own enjoyment or to give as a gift or whatever, those are perfectly fine to use that stuff on. So anyway, I will see you guys next Mayday Monday, and I am so happy to have found this cute little waterfall journal. I think this is just adorable, and I think it'll make a great first real life-size journal. So I look forward to creating it with you, and you have a wonderful, wonderful week, and know you're cared for. If you're having a rough week, comment. Leave me a comment. I want to be there with you and stand for you, because I know how tough it is. And no, I'm not going to give you any religious stuff whatsoever. I don't do religion. I just am there to give you a positive and kind outlook. And as a former registered nurse, if there's anyone I've ever known that had had a problem like yours and came up with a really amazing solution, I might share their really amazing solution with you too. Because I'm all about solutions, not problems. So, all right, love you guys very much. Y'all have a wonderful week and take care.